ChatGPT. 2. The Ninja Academy. 6 years had passed since the fateful day on October 10th, a day that had changed everything. To the casual observer, the village of Konohagakure appeared to have healed from the devastation left by the Nine-Tails rampage. Streets were busy once again, the homes rebuilt, the shops restored to their former bustling selves. For those who were too busy to look beyond the surface, the village might have seemed to be thriving, its power and vitality undiminished. But those with a keener eye, particularly the shinobi who knew the subtle signs of a community struggling to regain its equilibrium, could see the cracks that remained hidden beneath the polished exterior. The scars left by the Nine-Tails were still fresh, felt in the hushed whispers exchanged behind closed doors, in the anxious glances exchanged on street corners. On the outskirts of Konohagakure, nestled in the quietude of a small clan compound, the Uzumaki family prepared for a day that would mark the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. Kushina, with her long red hair tied back in a practical style, had spent the morning ensuring that her two children were ready for their first day at the Ninja Academy. Her gaze, though warm, carried the sharpness of a seasoned shinobi, ever watchful and always prepared. She had trained them well, pushing them harder than most parents would dare. After all, they were not just any children, they were the children of the fourth Hokage, inheritors of a legacy both revered and cursed. But more than that, they were her children, and she had no intention of letting them fall short of their potential. The first to appear before her was her daughter, Naruko. She was a small, sprightly girl, her long red hair tied up in two high ponytails that bounced with every step. Her deep blue eyes, the exact shade of her late father's, reflected both innocence and quiet determination. Following her, albeit with a bit of a delay, was her older brother, Naruto. His disheveled hair, the color of sun-bleached straw, fell into his eyes as he rubbed them groggily, still fighting off the remnants of sleep. Despite his sleepy demeanor, there was something resolute in his stance, a quiet strength that belied his age. Like his sister, he too had inherited his father's deep blue eyes, but more striking were the whisker-like marks that adorned both his cheeks, 6 thin lines, a constant reminder of the demon fox sealed within him. Kushina could not say for certain if the marks were a product of the seal itself or something more, but she knew they were not a mere curiosity. They were a symbol of the weight he carried. Kushina studied her children with the meticulous eye of a trained shinobi. Today was an important day, and she was determined that they would not fail in this first step of their journey. The academy had become a far cry from the rigorous training that had once defined Konohagakure's ninja. The curriculum had grown lax in recent years, a fact that irked her to no end. However, she had no power to change it. The village council had seen to that. Still, she would demand nothing less than excellence from her children, even if the world around them was growing softer. After a moment of silent inspection, Kushina broke into a smile. It was a smile that conveyed pride, but also a hint of the unspoken expectation that they would rise to the challenges ahead. "All right, you two. You don't want to be late for your first day, do you?" she said, her voice warm yet commanding. Without waiting for an answer, she stepped outside, and her children followed closely behind. The walk to the village center was a quiet one, marked by the awe and wonder that filled the eyes of the young siblings. The towering buildings around them were a far cry from the humble wooden structures of their clan compound. They had grown up surrounded by nature, the endless expanse of trees and mountains framing their world. The village, with its sprawling streets and looming stone structures, was intimidating yet exhilarating. Naruko clung to her brother's side, her gaze flicking nervously to the towering walls and bustling crowds. She had always been the more reserved of the two, content to remain in the safety of her brother's shadow. Naruto, on the other hand, was a bit more outgoing, though even he couldn't suppress the awe that overtook him. He had heard so many stories about the village, about his father, about the Hokage's legacy. This was where it all began, the first step toward his own dream of one day becoming Hokage, just like Minato Namake's. The sheer weight of that dream pressed down on him, but it was a weight he was determined to bear. As they neared the academy, villagers greeted them with bows and waves, acknowledging the presence of the children of the fourth Hokage. Naruko, ever shy, buried her face in her brother's back, avoiding the attention. Naruto, however, met the gazes of the villagers with a mixture of pride and unease. He had learned early on that there was a strange look that people gave him, one that lingered just a little too long. He first noticed it on his fifth birthday during a visit from the Hokage. That look, filled with unspoken questions and concealed worries, had only grown since then. No matter how many times he asked the Hokage about it, he was never given a satisfactory answer. He had a feeling that the old man knew something he didn't, but every inquiry was met with a vague smile and a change of subject. Just as Naruto was lost in thought, a familiar voice broke through the reverie. Naruto-kun, how are you today? Ino Yamanaka, a girl from one of the prominent clans, zipped toward them with a burst of energy. Her blonde hair bounced as she nearly tackled Naruto in an eager hug. It was a bit much for Naruto, who had never really known how to handle Ino's constant attentions, especially since that one impulsive gesture, a simple gift of flowers on her fourth birthday, had set this all into motion. I'm fine, Ino, he muttered, trying to extricate himself from her grip. It was embarrassing, but he had learned to live with it. Ino was sweet, and he didn't want to hurt her feelings, but her relentless attention was starting to get on his nerves. Before he could add anything more, Kushina pointed toward the towering academy gates. That's your new school, kids, she said with a smile. Your father went there too, you know. Naruto's eyes widened. The enormity of it all sank in for the first time. This was the first step to becoming a ninja and someday the Hokage. The weight of his father's legacy pressed down on him, but it wasn't a burden, it was a goal. A goal that would drive him, no matter what. Inside the academy, the siblings quickly found themselves in their assigned classroom. Their sensei, Irika Yumino, was a young man with a scar across his nose and hair tied back in a high ponytail. He was busy distributing the day's assignment when they walked in. The classroom was filled with a mixture of eager faces, some excited, others already distracted by the novelty of being in a school setting. Naruto and Naruko wasted no time, quickly completing the assignment in record time, 5 minutes, to be precise. Irika blinked, then blinked again, his eyes widening in disbelief as he read through their answers. Not a single mistake. It was a rare feat, even for the most advanced students, and these two were still barely 6 years old. Irika could hardly believe it. It was one thing for a student to excel, but for two to do so effortlessly was unheard of. He gave them both perfect scores without hesitation, though part of him wondered just how much these children had been trained before they even set foot in his classroom. The weeks that followed saw both Naruto and Naruko shattering every expectation set before them. Whether it was taijutsu, weapons mastery, or basic ninjutsu, they excelled in every field. It didn't take long for the other students to take notice, and soon fan clubs were formed around both siblings. Ino, of course, led the charge for Naruto, while Kiba Inuzuka formed a fan club for Naruko. The competition between the two groups was fierce, but it was clear that the siblings were destined for greatness. And yet, amidst all the admiration and attention, there was a growing undercurrent of tension within the village. In the Hokage's office, Hiruzen Sarutobi was mired in a sea of paperwork. Despite the bright future ahead for Konohagakure, the political climate was anything but stable. The village was divided, and factions were beginning to emerge, each with its own agenda. The ANBU commanders were already eyeing the siblings, eager to bring them into their ranks. Kakashi, ever the loyal protector, would do everything he could to keep them safe, but even he was aware that the time for a decision was fast approaching. Tell them to hold off for now, Hiruzen said wearily to Kakashi. They'll finish the school year, and we'll talk about what happens next after that. Kakashi's concern was evident. The AMBU were relentless in their pursuit of the two, but the Hokage's word was law for now. But there was more at play here than anyone realized. Danzo Shimura, once a trusted ally, was beginning to make his move. Hiruzen knew that the balance of power in Konohagakure would soon tip. What would become of the children of the fourth Hokage? The answer, as always, would come when it was least expected. ChatGPT